Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevate Your Business, the show we dive deep into the world of business success, along with the tactics and best practices used to get there. I'm your host, Ed Jarecki. Thank you so much for joining our show today. Throughout this show, we aim to inform and empower business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs like yourselves by providing invaluable lessons and advice from successful individuals who have traversed a similar path of business ownership. Our guest today is no exception. So sit back, relax, and let's give a warm welcome to our incredible guest speaker today, Peter LaMantia. Peter is the founder and CEO of Authentic Web Inc., a technology company providing a modern system to manage, control, and secure company network and technology infrastructure assets. Leading into his current role, Peter was president of aplus.net, a $20 million web services and domain register company. During his time in this role, Peter built and led his team through the successful migration of several 100,000 web services and related technology changes, while next developing an innovative solution that modernized and fundamentally changed and improved this operation. As Peter joins us on the show, he will shed light on what success means to him and how his definition has evolved over time, along with one or two top challenges and the lessons learned associated with them. And of course, next we'll discuss more relative to how Peter has continued to drive and deliver innovation in his organization. So join me in welcoming Peter LaMantia as we embark on another great episode of Elevate Your Business. And without further ado, welcome to the show, Peter. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Ed. Thanks for having me. Nice to be here and to speak to your audience.
Could you provide us a little bit more insight relative to your business?
Yeah, sure. So this is a business I founded in 2013. So as you had mentioned in the intro, I used to be president of a registrar business. We as a company owned about 1,000 domains and all the different DNS settings that are underneath there. And we just couldn't get a handle on it. It was difficult to understand where all of our network endpoints were located, what was set up on the DNS. And I just sort of realized that there's got to be a better way to do this for medium and large organizations. So we built a tool. Just, when you think about, how you improve on this stuff, it's really about making things easy for people, to empower people to do the job that they need to do. So we built this tool rethinking, just what are all the things, what are all the functions that enterprise IT infrastructure, DevOps, IT security guys need to be able to better manage their external DNS infrastructure. So we've built that and we've, had good success. We're growing and having fun doing it.
It's an incredible story. And for our audience out there, I actually had the welcome opportunity to work with Peter and his team in my previous role. And they really were. It was an incredible solution. We had to migrate many different business units from across the country into a seamless common solution. And we were able to accomplish much of that before I left that organization within months. And if it wasn't for Peter and his team, it would have taken probably years.
Yeah, thanks. It's very common. A lot of companies do mergers and acquisitions. They're buying domain assets. They're buying all the DNS network that sits on those domain assets, and they just don't know what they have. So they're buying the value of the asset, but they're also buying that risk. So we help companies consolidate all that stuff. And merger and acquisition companies they represent quite a few of our clients, actually.
And you mentioned that word risk. And there
Yeah.
really is a risk in not performing this upgrade to the service that you provide.
Absolutely. For those on the call that are listening that have a sense of the DNS, when you have a domain name, underneath that domain name are all the resource records that form what's called a zone file. So one domain could have hundreds or even thousands of different resource records. And these are all the different, directions for computers to where to send people, where computers talk to each other. And what's happened over the years, in the beginning of the internet in the late 1990s, people would set up a domain name and they'd enter a DNS record. And the attitude was set it and forget it because you're worried about changing something that might break. So over the years and literally a couple of decades, it's just become a mess. And there are all sorts of records set up on the DNS that you don't control those endpoints or those web resources. There are other security protocols you need to put in place, such as SPF records, DMARC records. So just understanding how the security works on the DNS is one thing, but then being able to manage it, to be able to see it, to get control, visibility, and automate functions to make sure that you are secure on the DNS, it's critically important.
Absolutely.
Everything that happens on the internet requires the DNS. So we help them make that simple. We empower teams with these tools.
Yeah, and I agree with you. You do make it simple, much more seamless than the manual processes that are used pretty much every place else.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Ed. Appreciate
So,
that.
so when you consider your journey, you've had some awesome accomplishments. You've been an incredibly innovative leader. But how would you define success today?
Well, I've always thought of it in three terms and sort of the stakeholders that are involved. So the customer, the company, and the individual. So obviously for the customer, how are we delivering value for that customer? And is that definition over time changing? Right. So making sure that having a very strong, connection to customers, what they're experiencing, what their problems are, and just continuing to evolve that to make sure they're continuing to drive value out of the product because things change. On the individual level, so these are the employees, these are the guys that are working here, and everybody needs to get up in the morning with a purpose, right? So giving people an opportunity to understand the vision, to contribute to that vision, and giving them opportunities to grow as individuals and to grow in their career are really important to me. And obviously for company, it's sort of it's the secondary, but it happens by taking care of the first two, basically generating revenues, generating profits that contribute back to the shareholders who have invested in it. So those three, customer, company, individuals, sort of what I focus on. It's always evolving over time, but it's that same thesis is that if those three stakeholders are satisfied in what they're doing, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, and I guess I've called that win-win-win. You know,
Yeah,
is
exactly. Yeah.
clients, employees, business.
Yeah, it's pretty elementary and like so many things in life, things it's pretty simple when you boil it down. Is if you maintain that, the trick is how you exercise that, right? How
Agree.
you keep that moving through difficult times, through times of just unbelievable workload. Why as an individual that works for you want to work extra hours because the company's busy? Well, it's because they believe in the vision, they believe in the purpose, and they want to see themselves succeed in that role and be part of something that's larger than themselves.
Since we started talking, actually a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, you've always carried that mantra, and it's always been something I've absolutely respected, that cultural piece, people, process, technology, and the
Yeah,
culture that envelops it to
yeah,
allow the win-win-win outcomes.
yeah. No, totally agree, Ed.
So when you consider what your definition of success was, 20, 30 years ago, what was it and
Hmm.
how has it evolved?
Well, I guess the only thing that's changed really is, I still anchor on those three, but there's just more color to it today. Right. So when we started out, we had a thesis of what we were delivering, what problems we were solving, and we put those out there. But every time you iterate, you gain some additional color in terms of, what customers need. You understand them better. You understand their problems. So I think it's just a continual evolution of looking at these things and are we delivering for all stakeholders? As the world changes, so do some of the underlying needs and desires of individuals. I think the company one is probably the easiest because it's just about revenue and profit growth. But that is driven by are you delivering value to those customers and are your employees motivated and driven to help make that a reality? So it's just the color gets deeper and richer.
Okay, outstanding.
Yeah.
So when you think about that journey, no business is without having challenges to overcome. What are
Mm-hmm.
one or two key challenges and the lessons learned associated with them that you've
Yeah.
experienced?
Yeah, I'll probably be a little repetitive here, but it's all about people. A company is its people. And, managing people is, well, I'll take you back a few years. I used to manage a tree planting company. I used to take 500 university students out to British Columbia, Canada, and spread them out all over all over the province. But what I learned by managing those individuals at a young age is that every individual needs something unique. They're all different and they have different things that drive them. So, the challenge of people is also the opportunity to, when you can harness that individual and their own and motivate them, whatever means that might be, that resonates with them, you can be successful. And then they as a group then become stronger, and it's 1 + 1 = 3. So I think that's a big one. People, it's all about people. The other thing that I would say that I've discovered in the last 11 years is just how dynamic the market is and how it's always changing. And an example of this, when we were really sort of driving our first level of growth, sort of 2014, 15, 16, we had some tactics out in the market that were really working. They're really working. It was resonating. We're getting leads, we're getting deals, and then it stopped working. And I don't really know why, except that it did stop. So we said, okay, something has shifted in the market here. So let's try to understand this. What are people saying now? So shifting what we do relative to what's changing in the market. And this could be different things about, a hype cycle going on in the market around something that has caught people's attention. Things shift all the time, and the need to be nimble in that and recognize that soon enough so that you can make a pivot and start to regenerate growth. So this is just constant. Every year it seems to change a little bit. I think right now we're on a really good track right now around DNS security, because people are really just starting to wake up that the DNS runs everything. And if you don't have that locked down, you're going to be in trouble. And, malicious actors out there, they see the public DNS. They know what you've got set up. And, now with AI and some of the tools, it's more important than ever. So those two things are really important, sort of the timing and the constant change concept, and, the people side. The people side is just a constant, right? It's rewarding and it's challenging both.
Yeah, and as I've considered that's the same question, and through my career has continued to evolve, but it's the levers of success. And to
Yeah.
your point that that evolving means I got to push on this lever or pull on
Yeah.
this lever, push on this one, and oh, by the way, I need a new lever because
Yeah.
the
And you need to get
fundamentals.
rid of a lever.
Yeah,
It's
yes,
like every year
exactly.
we have a strategy session every year, and one of the things we always do in the annual plan is saying, okay, what do we got to stop? What do we got to stop and start? It's not an uncommon view, but you need to be kind of ruthless about that, because sometimes, sometimes you're sort of doing something, you say, yeah, it's not quite working, not quite working. Maybe we'll tweak it a little bit, but at some point you've got to say, that's not working. Let's focus our effort elsewhere.
Your organization is all about technology and innovation. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
founded on a major innovation that still stands
Mm-hmm.
as the pinnacle of solution for this service today. How do you keep up with those changes?
Yeah, so the thesis has always been about how to make this easy and empower teams, right? So in the end, we're not selling to big corporations. We're selling to individuals sitting in a department that are having trouble doing their job. So it's always just sort of a view of staying connected with the people that are using our systems, connecting to their bosses to understand how those bosses feel about what their guys are being empowered with, and then constantly reviewing that. So one of our, we have a very clear roadmap around security and compliance, but we're always looking for, what are our clients telling us? In our system, we've got a feedback button. We want to hear from clients, and some of our best features, they come from clients. So driving a roadmap as a directional and a thesis that we're moving forward with is good, and you need it so that everybody stays on that same path. But using the information that you get from the actual users of the system today tells you what you should build next and prioritize in the future. Just staying in touch with what people are doing, and making sure that we're changing as they're changing.
And that actually informs your development roadmap so that
Very much.
you
Yeah.
can plan and deliver
Yeah.
those in a timely manner.
Yeah.
So AI has been, this last 18 months, I think has been absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence and the thought behind it
Yeah.
and specific uses has been out there for quite a while now. But all of a sudden it's exploded onto the screen so that pretty much anybody can take advantage of those capabilities.
Yeah.
And if you consider AI relative to your business, that represents really two sides an opportunity side and a risk side. So how do you look at AI in your business and, manage that risk side and continue to evolve on the opportunity side?
AI is so both scary, the things that this stuff can do today already and the growth in, the last 30 days when you see new apps. So there's a risk there that, someone comes along with a better idea and develops it more quickly with less requirement for capital. That's always there. For us who are in the space, have market position, have expertise internally, we need to equip our people and encourage them sometimes by force to use AI in their development. I had one guy, one of my top devs, he said, okay, I've got to do this thing. He said, and he came back a day later and he thought it was going to take him a couple of weeks. He said, well, it would have taken me 2 weeks, but I used AI and I'm done. So I look at it as a huge opportunity
Yeah.
for us, right? And saying, and we're okay. Like if you're not, and I think it was Scott Galloway, I heard him say this. He's an interesting character if you don't know him. He talks about if you're growing, it's great because, if you were growing in an old environment, you'd have to say, okay, we need to hire 10 new devs in the next year or 2 years. And now you don't need to do that. You might hire one, you might hire two who are AI enabled. So this is just going to improve productivity of every individual that works for you as you grow. If you're on the other side of it and you're static and you're not growing, well, then you need to be thinking about it in terms of how you need to reduce headcount and use AI to reduce headcount, which is not a fun place to be. It's since the internet, I don't think this is the most incredible technology that's existed. And, we're working this year like every company is working. If they're not, they won't be around in 2 years, just to make sure that we're AI enabled or empowered. It's a force multiplier. It's fascinating stuff. I think on the other side of it too, is that I think that enterprises that we serve or that we target are more at risk of cyber threats out there
I
because
agree.
we know that AI will be used to discover problems or discover holes or gaps and then better equipped to how do we exploit those gaps. So for us on the threat side, as it's growing, our value proposition becomes even that more stronger.
So a related question to this is AI has come on the scene so strong, and you made a comment there relative to in 2 years, if people, businesses are not leveraging this capability, they're not going to exist. So
I
have
don't
we
think
have we passed the era of opportunity with this new
No, not
innovation?
at all. No, it's just starting. Just start. It seems to me it's just starting. No one knows the future, but you can just see the trajectory. Moore's law seems very slow now, when you compare it to something as fast as AI. And, I was watching a video the other day of, CEO, I think it was Google, and just a whole bunch of big thinkers on AI and how this thing is spitting out results and they don't know how it's doing it, but it's doing it and it's doing it well. The thing is evolving so quickly. So no, I think I'm really bullish about it. I think that, we always worry that this technology might disrupt people and people might lose jobs because of it. But with every technology we've ever seen, it's created more jobs because there's more that one can do. I think it's huge opportunity ahead of us for sure.
So on one end of this, it may be becoming a little bit more mainstream relative to you need to be using it to speed up your business, to drive some of
For
the
sure.
innovation, et cetera. But on
Yeah,
the opportunity side, the world is still the oyster because
absolutely.
AI is going to
Yeah.
start to really evolve in a manner that starts to connect these pieces, is my
Yeah.
thought. You,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And it's going to open up people that, if you're not a coder, well, maybe you don't need to be a coder in the future to build product, right? So
that's
maybe there's some basic architecture stuff that you need to understand, front end, back end, infrastructure, et cetera. But I can just sit in front of a computer and say, here's my requirement, build that, right? And here's the stack that I'd like to use, or recommend a better stack for this. Now, think about, okay, I think in 5 years we'll be at a scale. Are we prepared for that scale with what we're building today? So often, and we've already had to do it once, right? So when we built our first product, We were on a stack in 2014, 15. We rebuilt it in 2020 when COVID hit. We said, okay, sales are going to be slow right now, guys. Let's take this opportunity to rebuild it. So AI, transitioning from one type of controller to another type of controller, for example, AI can do that much more effectively. So, I just think that it's just going to open up many more opportunities. So there's no shortage of imagination in the human spirit. And, applying AI and figuring out how to use it, we're going to see all sorts of interesting stuff that develops. And it just opens it up to many other people.
Yeah, to that last point, I see, business as a mosaic of little pieces and parts that have to
Yeah.
interconnect seamlessly in order to deliver the output and to be able to sustain that output with positive momentum. The opportunity with AI is going to continue to connect all these pieces and help make things much more intuitive. And right now, I think that there's some challenges, a lot of technologies out there, some of the legacy technologies are actually inhibiting use because of the maintenance and some of the other challenges. Any thoughts around that?
No, no question, but that's always been the way I think, when you think of a company that might have been around now for 20, 30 years, I'm not going to name a name, but massive organizations that are running old tech, it all works, and nobody wants to invest the hundreds of millions of dollars to rebuild because it works. I see that as existing today. I think that AI might be the one thing that helps get over that hump because you can reduce the total cost to rebuild or reset, right? So, listen, there's a million risks that we all understand around AI and, whether or not it, just the misinformation side of it or, used for nefarious purposes, as I mentioned. But overall, it's fascinating stuff.
It really is, isn't it?
Fascinating stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
You were to say this is the one or two things to provide our audience for their takeaways to consider for their business, what would those be?
Boy, one or two things, that's tough. So one, I suppose, is, and this was from a book of an associate of mine, Colin Campbell, wrote recently. It's called Find Your X Factor, right? So what is the one thing that you do that is unique that nobody else does? You are the very best in the world at this one thing and leverage on that. And for us, that's DNS security controls to empower teams, right? There's nobody that does that like us. The other sort of thing that I think about, the people thing is really important. And I kind of have a mantra here around, trust, honesty, respect, and integrity. The way I approach people is I will grant you my trust right away. Full stop. Would you say I'm going to say is I believe you. I trust that you're going to be honest with me. And I will also respect that you have challenges, whether it's your family life, something going on outside of business, that you have some certain constraints that you cannot necessarily deliver. There needs to be respect for what people are dealing with, and then integrity, really important. Where I think, okay, if you're going to complete something and say, okay, this is ready to go, I'm going to trust that you've done the work and what you're delivering comes with integrity because you've thought it through, you've done everything that needs to be done. So trust, honesty, and respect and integrity are sort of four words I like a lot. The other one on people is, I'm a big believer in contracts. So there are implied contracts and there are written contracts. Written is kind of simple, but implied is simply, all right, you're going to deliver me something next Thursday. Great. Okay, I'm not going to bug you on Wednesday because it's going to be here Thursday. But if it's not going to be here Thursday, then you need to tell me on Wednesday that it's not going to be delivered, and this is the reason why. So, X factor, what are you unique at? And then it comes back down to people, right? Just how you interact with people and how you create a team that's cohesive and working towards the same goals. There's a couple. I could go on, but there's a limit to time.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
appreciate you so much and spending and sharing those best practice advice to our audience members. Any final closing comments or thoughts you'd like to share?
We do something we call Rockefeller habits here, where every quarter we set up our goals, right? So you've got a year-long plan. You've got a goal where you want to get to. but it's too long a time period. So what we do is we set a quarterly goals. It's 13 weeks. It's like a 13-week sprint, and everybody has 3 or 4 priorities that they need to hit. If you start doing, I'm a big list guy. So if I have my list of 25 things I need to do, I look at it and say, okay, which of these are aligned to my 3 or 4 goals for this quarter? And those goals need to be, they need to be difficult enough that they stretch your ability, right? So one coach that I talked to years ago, he said, think of it like a rubber band. If you're pulling that rubber band really tight, you're pulling the business forward regardless. So even if you don't hit your goals, you've pulled that business forward.
Yes.
So
Yep.
that's one thought I'd give everyone. It's sort of setting targets that are hard to get but achievable. Don't set them too high because then you demotivate. It's just a fine balance in there, and then that comes back to people, all about the individuals.
Always is, isn't it? It always comes
It
down to
is.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. Thank you all for joining us today, and a special thank you to our guest, Peter LaMantia, for sharing his insights, experiences, and best success recommendations with us. We hope that this conversation has left you inspired and motivated to embrace challenges of entrepreneurship with resilience, innovation, and adaptability. Remember, success comes in many forms, and it's essential to define success for yourself. Take the lessons shared by Peter to heart as you navigate your own entrepreneurial journey. Embrace change, seek out opportunities for growth, and always be willing to adapt to the ever-evolving landscape of business. Thank you once again to our phenomenal guest speaker, Peter LaMantia, and thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next time as we continue exploring the stories behind incredible entrepreneurs. Stay resilient and stay innovative, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.